do people regret buying land? And I'm going to share, what we've learned after selling 1,000 pieces of land to customers all across the country. And, just being in this space for about 5 years now. And I want to share what I've learned about what we've seen people, if they buy land, or even my own personal story. So I have 3 things written down here. So the first thing is, people usually do not regret their land purchase, and they are happy with their land purchase if they don't overextend. So what I mean by that is, let's say you have a budget of what you can actually, or what you want to be comfortable paying for your property. It can be in cash, or if you're buying land with owner financing and making payments. Usually what we've seen people regret is they buy a piece of land that, 2 scenarios. One, they buy the piece of land that's perfect for them, that's a good payment, and it makes sense for what they're looking to do. The next thing we've seen is people that buy way too much land that, can't afford it, or it becomes a burden, right? If it's like really pushing the budget and you're having to make payments on this land that, you're not comfortable with making, that's usually when people regret it, right? And or if you can afford a nicer piece of land in a better location and you have the budget, and if you underutilize that budget, there's a perfect medium to where like it's affordability and what you want, right? And usually what we've seen is anyone who overextends and buys something that's way too expensive for them, it becomes a problem because they have to, make payments on it, or they put too much cash to purchase this piece of land. So the first thing I would say is, if you're buying a piece of land, make sure you clearly know what is your budget and what you're able to afford every month, or able to, buy in cash. Because buying with the wrong budget, it puts a lot of pressure on you, and it's just not useful. Just like anything, just like a car, just like a fancy house, it's all the same stuff. So that's number 1. Number 2, what I've written down here is, the people who usually regret buying land are the people who don't think about holding costs. And what that means is like property taxes. So if you, plan to hold this piece of land for 15, 20, 30, 40 years, you got to know what your yearly obligations are, right? So if you're, a lot of the land we sell, luckily, the taxes are like $50 or less per year. So it's very affordable, and that's our mission, to make land ownership affordable. So before you buy any piece of property, make sure that you know what it's going to cost you to hold that property every year. Whether it's like property taxes, or if the property sits in like a homeowners association or a property owners association and you have to pay dues, make sure you know what those are, because land is a long game, and you want to know what you're getting into and what it's going to cost you to own this piece of land over 20, 30, 40,000 years, right? And the third and final thing that we've seen people that regret their land purchase, and even me myself, is they don't think about the use case, right? So let's say that they want to build a gas station or their own retail shopping center on their piece of land, but they ended up buying some residential piece of land where the zoning allows for putting a house on it, but you can't put a gas station on there. So that is the thing we've seen people regret, is they buy it with the wrong zoning. So if your plan is to build a gas station, don't buy land with residential zoning, because to change that zoning is pretty hard, and you have to go through what's called a rezoning process. And that costs a lot of money, attorney fees, and hassle, because you got to deal with the government, with your local city or county officials, and that's a long process. So if you have a specific plan in mind, if you want to build a house, buy a residential piece of land, figure out what the minimums are, like, meaning, is there any like specific minimums in that neighborhood where you need to build a certain amount of square footage or whatever. So if you already have the specific vision in your head for your piece of land, make sure the zoning matches. And if you're buying this as an investment grade asset, it kind of affects it, but not as much, because it's still like, if it's a commercial piece of land, you're going to sell it to someone that's looking for commercial land even in the future. but this is for people who have a specific vision for what they're looking for. So, guys, those are the three main things. And a bonus tip is to make sure the land has easy accessibility to you. Meaning that if you're wanting it to be like, if you want to take this on the weekends, like go to your lot on the weekends, make sure that it's at a distance that you're willing to drive, right? If it's across the country and you want to go every weekend, then it's a problem. We have customers who buy and they go occasionally or like once a year or something, and that's fine. But if this is like, oh, I want to go every weekend, if it's a 9-hour drive, it's going to be a little bit annoying. So there's that. And then also physical and legal access. And I'm going to make another video about that. But those are all things you should be aware of to make sure that you don't regret your land purchase.